It was before I met my boyfriend. I was in university in the US and I was deciding where to study abroad. Yeah, like everyone just minds their business and goes about their day.
Yeah, exactly.
So many people ask me about the visa. So many people who have Czech partners or a European partner with an EU passport too.
Yeah, maybe the younger generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. What made you think like, oh yeah, we could actually live here?
So many things. I would say the safety is the biggest one.
You relax most of the days because nobody goes shopping on a Christmas day and you get paid double. Taylor, what was one moment when you realized that, oh wow, we live in Prague, we live here now?
I would say, and this is going to be probably a little bit corny, but it was the first time we watched the sunset in Rigorovy Sady, and just all these people there drinking beers, having pizza, and just seeing the sunset over the city. I think that was like, it really hit me in that moment. Like, wow, I live in this city and I'm so lucky to be here.
Wow. Well, welcome.
It's cheesy, but
yeah, that's a nice beginning of the life in Prague, I guess. Yeah. So welcome everyone to Borderline Czech, a new episode where me, Daria, and Jan here, obviously Czech, obviously Czech, argue about life in Prague as a foreigner and someone who works with foreigners, and we just argue about everyday life and bring you a different point of view. And today we're joined by a very talented, beautiful content creator from the US, Taylor.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
And she will be sharing her story about how she moved to the Czech Republic. Maybe also she will add a little story about how she moved with her boyfriend as well, who is half Czech, half British. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so welcome, Taylor. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Okay, so maybe we can start already with the questions. We also asked our followers on Instagram and TikTok. On both of our profiles, we'll be putting all the profiles later in the video, so you can give Taylor a follow as well, because she's so talented and she covers all these amazing stories about how she lives in Prague, about everyday life, something more exciting, something not less exciting, but like very useful, like where to buy stuff and how VZP works. Very, very useful for someone who lives here. So we also asked our followers to send us some questions for today's podcast, and you did, so thank you very much, and we'll be also putting them throughout the episode.
Perfect.
Okay, so tell me, how did Prague even come up as like a destination to move to with your boyfriend?
So it was before I met my boyfriend. I was in university in the US and I was deciding where to study abroad just for 1 month in the summer. I was leaning towards Amsterdam, but my uncle is a pilot and I brought up that Prague was also an option. I knew nothing about Prague. I knew nothing about the Czech Republic. But he told me that Prague was his favorite place in Europe and that I had to go. So I just listened to him, and I'm so glad I did because it changed my life forever. That was in 2019, and my first week there, I was going out to a bar with a bunch of girls I just met. We had our first Czech lesson that morning. So I was really wanting to practice my Czech on Czech guys. That's what I said. And so outside the bar, there was 3 guys. I thought they looked Czech, and I was mostly right because it was my boyfriend who's half Czech, my now boyfriend who's half Czech, and his 2 Czech family friends. So I went up to them and I said, Sem Taylor, Sem Zimeriki. And then Mark spoke back to me in English and said, you're American? And honestly, the rest is history. Like, we were inseparable from that night, and we were in a long-distance relationship going back and forth between the US and the UK, and also spending some time in Prague because his mom lives here. And also, we both graduated college during COVID, so we got remote jobs, so that allowed us to make it easier to be in a long-distance relationship because we could both work from wherever. And then after a few years of being together, we're like, okay, it's time for me to get a visa in Europe. We never considered moving to the US. I was always open from the beginning of moving somewhere in Europe. I never imagined that I would live outside the US, but once the opportunity was there, I was like,
Why not?
Hell yeah. And so we were deciding between London and Prague, and Prague won for so many reasons. So we officially moved here a year and a half ago. So my boyfriend is half Czech, as I mentioned, but he would spend summers here and he speaks Czech. So a big part of why we moved is because he has some family here. He speaks the language. So we thought it would be a little easier, but in a lot of ways, he is a foreigner too. Like, you know, because
It's nice
he's not
balance.
culturally Czech. Like, yeah. So, because he grew up in England, so he is more culturally British. But maybe he's becoming more Czech since we're living here. But yeah, so we moved here a year and a half ago on a temporary residence permit as a partner, and now we're here, and we honestly plan to stay forever.
Yeah, I guess it's good because he's not like fully Czech, so it wasn't such a big cultural difference, in the household or like, outside that he would only speak Czech to everyone. He will be like, oh.
Yeah, and I feel like we're adjusting to Czech culture together in a lot of ways because there's a lot of things he's not familiar with because he never experienced them when he was a kid here in the summers. Like they would go,
Mushrooming.
yeah, he would do things like that, but in terms of like the Prague city life, like he never experienced that. So I feel like we moved here together rather than I moved here for him. Like we decided to come here together, so it's very much been like a joint effort in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that sounds cool. And what made you think like, oh yeah, we could actually live here?
So many things. I would say the safety is the biggest one. Coming from the US, where there's a lot of violence, especially with guns, and like the cities are just so unsafe. And I've traveled to almost 50 countries, and the one I say I felt the most unsafe in is my home in the US. I've never been catcalled so much or felt harassed or scared as in cities in America. So when coming to Prague and feeling like at all hours of the night I could walk alone on the street as a woman, like that's something that I felt right away, that obviously bad things can happen anywhere. There's bad people everywhere, but that's something I really valued. So the safety, the public transport, um, I loved like even seeing kids taking the public transport on their own. I was
Alone,
so
yeah.
shocked by that. Because yeah, in the US, people have leashes for their kids because it's like so
Yeah, I saw
dangerous to bring them to the mall or something because who knows what could happen. So I would say the safety, but also I just always loved Czech culture since I first came here. And I think I learned it mostly through my boyfriend's mom because she is Czech, and she did move to England in her 20s. But, right from the start, she started making Czech food and sort of teaching me about the Czech Republic. So I feel like I had a little primer to it. And I really liked, the vibe and the way people are here. And I feel like a lot of the things you see online about Czech people are not really true.
No?
No. It's always like, oh, Czech people are cold and they're rude. And I just don't think that's the case. And I think, for example, like I sprained my ankle last year, and I went to get an X-ray, and I walk in, and every single person is like, "Dobrý den," and I'm like, "Why is everyone talking to me?" In America, you would never say hello to people in a doctor's office. It would be so abnormal to do that. People would think you're a freak. And then once you leave, everyone's like, "Nasgleda," and I'm like, "Wow, people actually acknowledge your humanity here." In America, at least in the Northeast, I'm from New Jersey, we just ignore each other, and I think
Maybe
that
we are freaks. All
no,
of us.
no, it's great. Like, because it's not like Czech people are making small talk or anything, which sometimes you do get in the US. But they just say hello, and it's like they're at least acknowledging your presence. While in America, it's like you ignore people, maybe less in the South or something, but in New Jersey, we're pretty, I guess, more edgy in that way, where we're just like, focus on work, focus on what you need to get done. No reason to say hi to people, just get your groceries and leave. Well, here, everyone's like, Dobrý den, and I found that so nice. So yeah, I don't think Czech people are cold. Maybe a little bit more reserved, but again, most of my friends are Czech, and I guess they grew up watching a lot of the same stuff I did, being exposed to American TV, and I feel like we're really not that different.
Yeah, maybe the younger generation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. Yeah, because the older one maybe could be a little bit more.
Why did you look at me? Like the older generation.
Because we're Czech.
Right. Well, I feel like too, you know, obviously people's parents growing up under you know, communism, it's so different than what we, you know, our American parents experience. So like my mom and Mark's mom have such a different upbringing. So that is so true. But I do think the younger generations, like we're becoming a little bit more similar and more like global in that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get along.
Yeah, they get along. And Mark's mom, she lived in England for a long time, so she speaks English perfectly. They get along. Yeah, they've met once or twice, but they will again soon because my mom's coming to visit again soon. So
Oh, that's cute.
maybe take them to Český Krumlov for a day trip. I haven't been there yet, so I'm thinking like a cute little Czech day trip would be fun.
Yeah, there's Luboka, the castle. You could also go there. You
Ooh,
know, there's like
yeah.
beautiful white castle that everybody like.
Oh, yeah, I need to see that.
Yeah.
And have you visited any smaller cities already in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, I have. I recently just went to Šumava and went to my friend's village there. And then one of my other friends lives near Zlín. So I went there and I've been to Děčín and Karlovy Vary, Marneské Lázně. Sorry, I'm going to be butchering some of these.
That's good.
And Kutná Hora. So yeah, I feel like I've explored a little bit. Then for Valentine's Day this weekend, we're going somewhere near Ještěd. So yeah, it's just amazing, like living in a country that in an hour you can get to the mountains and see such beautiful sights. Like obviously the U.S. is really diverse, but it's like a 6-hour flight to California from me, so it's very far.
Yeah. And do you feel like smaller cities have a different vibe than Prague? Like, do you feel like different in the smaller cities rather than Prague?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think just any capital city just always has the most metropolitan feel. But one of the things that attracted me about Prague is that it is a small city, in my opinion, compared to American cities or to London. And I liked that. I liked that you can get from one end of Prague to the other in like 45 minutes because it feels homey, yet there's still so much to do and all the districts are still so different from each other. But yeah, I would say that I have also been to Brno and I feel like you can sense a little bit of a vibe difference for sure. And I know there's some competition between the cities. But yeah, I love Prague.
It was kind of similar with me because I'm Czech, but I'm from a small village, like 1,000 people. So I never actually wanted to move to Prague because it was like a huge city for me and all the traffic and all the homeless people and everything. Because I've only visited once or twice before moving here, like school trips. And when I moved here, like the longer I live here, the smaller Prague actually feels. It's like kind of fun, especially in our field, it kind of feels that we know everyone. You know, you go outside and you cannot just walk and not meet someone you know. And so it's a pretty small, convenient city.
Yeah, I love that about it. But it's so funny you say that about the homeless people because it's all about perspective, right? Like, because one of the things that I notice about Prague is how I feel like there's so few homeless people because compared to American cities, like it's so much worse there. So it's sort of like just based on what you're used to. Like I'm used to, so much more homelessness and suffering in that way. So for me here, I'm like, wow, it's maybe they manage it better here. Or there's more resources. And obviously I know it exists here and it's a problem. And, it's always sad to see, but yeah, it's funny just based on where you come from, you view things so differently.
Yeah, but even when you travel like within Europe and the other capitals, like there's so many homeless people. Like they're literally like in Paris.
Yeah.
Like there's like camps of like homeless people. Also in Spain, the same. So Prague is like nothing. Prague is very homeless.
Well,
less
compared to the village I was born and raised,
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah. We started talking about these cultural differences between, US and Czech Republic. So I already touched something. I had a few questions prepared, but we already kind of discussed it. So I wonder, like, is there something that you really romanticized previously about, like Czech Republic or living in Europe or whatever, like something, and then the reality hit and it wasn't that romantic or it wasn't that great?
That's a good question. I think I would probably say, I would probably say before I moved here, I thought, wow, I'm going to be in the center of Europe. I'm going to be traveling all over Europe all the time, going to all these different countries. And that just has not been the case. Like, even though there's good public transport, I think I underestimated quite how long it can take to get to the surrounding countries. Like, my mom and I went to Krakow and it took 6 hours. I think it sometimes can take less. We didn't have the option for a direct train. And so I was thinking I'd be nipping away for the weekend to like all these other countries, and that's not really the case, but I still feel so lucky to at least have that proximity because obviously that's not the same in America, and also it's so much more affordable here to travel, but I feel like also a little less affordable than I thought. I've heard post-COVID, just prices haven't really ever gone back down between flights between European countries. But yeah, I think I over-romanticized I'm going to be such a European, traveling all over Europe. Like, I've mostly been in the Czech Republic, but I'm also happy with that because I found that I love Prague so much and I have so much that I want to do here that I don't really feel as much of an inclination to travel as I used to. I still love it, but I'm like, I want to stay in Prague this weekend. You know, I want to be here because I'm so happy here.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, because I'm from Russia. So I also thought like, okay, I'm going to travel everywhere. Like, it's going to be every weekend. It's going to be a different trip.
Yeah.
No, really. Like, I don't think I traveled that much. Like, I have started last year.
Didn't you just go to Dubai?
No.
Wait, where were you?
I was in Malta.
Malta, okay.
And then I was in
Spain.
Madrid. And I'm going to Budapest tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just now. But before that, like, I didn't really travel much. Yeah, everybody is like, kept asking me like, oh, are you traveling like all the time? I was like, not really.
Yeah, I think that like a lot
Jan
of
hates me so much.
a lot of people just like assume like Americans really do just believe that in Europe like you can just like pop over to Slovakia for like a quick afternoon, and it's just like it's not the case.
Well, if you live in Brno, maybe.
Yeah.
Driving from Prague to Slovakia would be.
Yeah, I feel like if you live next to the borders, you know, like a lot of people from Brno, they go to Austria, to Vienna for like a weekend or just like for an afternoon. One of our colleagues, like she's on maternity leave. Hi, Petra. And so her family lives next to the Polish borders. So every time she would go to visit them, she would be like, yeah, we also popped to go to Poland.
Or to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. So like I feel like because Prague is like still quite central. Right?
Yeah,
so,
in the country.
Yeah, so it takes time. It takes time to travel.
No.
Just
any place in Europe where you've been and you liked outside of the Czech Republic?
I'm so many. Yeah, I've mostly, for the most part, been to Western Europe and Central. I also did like,
Where do you place the Czech Republic?
Oh no!
Don't ask me this.
Oh no!
I've gotten hate for this on social media. Okay, so
you live, you learn.
The older Czech people I know, who are in their 60s, 70s, they say that it's in Eastern Europe. But the younger Czech people say that it's in Central. So I said Central Eastern, but I got hate for that. So I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to... Yeah, and I've seen comments on multiple videos where people are mad about either. I think I'm now just going to default with Central because geographically it is. But obviously historically, and it was part of the Eastern Bloc. So the older people often say Eastern. But then Prague, Czech Republic, I feel like doesn't feel like they're very Eastern culturally anymore. They feel like a mix of East and West. So it's not up for me to decide.
Yeah,
well,
I'll let them decide.
Yeah, drop your comments. What you think? Is Czech Republic Eastern, Central, or Central Eastern Europe?
Yeah,
like what is?
I don't even know.
It's
what do you think?
It's obviously center of the universe. So
true, it's the center of the world.
Exactly. So you cannot go wrong with that.
Yeah. Well. Is there any American habit that you still kind of drop while living here for like more than a year, almost 2 years, right? Year and a half.
Yeah, I will say, and this one's gonna be a little bit cheeky, but I guess this is more of like a Czech cultural difference and something that I'm still getting used to. But in America, we're very like taboo and shy about nudity. So like in the locker room at the gym, for example, you would never have open showers. You would never see another person in the shower. You would have a closed room with a curtain. And also even changing in the locker room, like you would do your top, then your pants separately. You would never be fully unclothed. But here it's people just bear it all, and I'm not hating at all. Like it's if anything, I think it's a good thing that people you're not sexualizing it. You're comfortable, but it was an adjustment for sure to like be comfortable with showering next to other people. And also like in the doctor's offices, I went for a dermatologist visit and they're like, okay, time for the exam. And I'm like, is there a gown or something? And it's like, nope, you just take everything off and just sit on the chair. In America, they give you like a gown to cover up and then you only open it once you're ready. So I would say that's one thing I'm still not that I'm clinging to it, but that I think it's going to take some more time to get used to that. And then don't even get me started about the saunas.
Yeah,
don't even get me started.
Yeah.
I've been to one sauna here, and yeah, it was an experience for sure. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's for everyone's. Like I feel like Czech Republic is very. I still can't decide. Like
they love being naked.
Yeah, and also children, running around naked as well, like in different parks or do you
in the city as well?
What?
Yeah, like in the different fountains, everything.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just go like shower there.
Yeah, so I feel like it's like it has both good and and not that positive sides. But I feel like it's mostly good. Yeah, because it's not like something sacred. It's not something unusual. Maybe that's why there's not so much, that it's safer here. Well, maybe also it's connected to that,
Yeah, like there's less like just inherent sexualization of the body in that way. Like, because I mean, it just opened my eyes to in the US, how taboo that is when it is just your body, and especially at the doctor's office. Like you shouldn't feel shy or embarrassed.
Seen bodies before.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just you and them in there. Like, nobody else is there and it's the doctor. So it did make me kind of question, my own like inherent beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do I feel like shy about this when the doctor's just here to make sure that I'm okay,
Yeah. I feel like it also humbles you in a way. Like you're just one of the patients. You're just like one of the bodies. Like
you get over yourself quickly.
Yeah.
No one really cares, Like, you don't need to be really conscious about yourself because in the sauna, in the locker rooms, they will, no one will come to you and say like, you're ugly,
Yeah.
Just, good.
Yeah, like everyone just minds their business and goes about their day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had a question from, I don't know if it was from Instagram or from TikTok, from our followers. What's your favorite part of Czech culture?
I think my favorite part of Czech culture is how outdoorsy Czech people are. I grew up in the suburbs, but still pretty close to cities, and I actually used to hate any outdoor activities. I always would say I'd never go camping. And as I've gotten older, and then now as I've spent more time in the Czech Republic around Czech people, I just have started to fall in love with nature so much more. Czech people, I feel like, just do all the sports. They do all the activities. They're doing biking, cross-country skiing, mushroom picking, hiking. Like they just love being outside, and it's such like an integral part of their identity in so many ways. And I feel like that's something that I've started to like pick up on, and now I'm totally down to go camping.
Yeah, I remember when I started university here and I was talking to my classmates and they were like, hey, what you gonna do in the weekend? Like a classic, I don't know, whatever, you watch TV, you don't know,
you go shopping.
And they're like, yeah, we're gonna pop to the mountains and then we're gonna, rather run a we're gonna pop to the mountains and then we're gonna run a marathon. We're gonna go to the mountains, run a marathon. And I was so surprised. I was like, it's a weekend.
Like,
why?
You should be relaxing.
Yeah, like what do you mean go to the mountains? So that was shocking.
Relax,
Yeah, it was very shocking to me too. All right. So also, I'm interested about like the daily life for you in Prague. So, what is your like typical day as a content creator? How do you usually spend your day?
Yeah.
In Prague?
And so I am a content creator, but I also am self-employed, and I work. I do patient advocacy in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's my career before I moved here, and I got a trade license so I could keep it up here and have clients in the US and Europe. So my day, honestly, I spend too much time in my apartment probably because I am balancing working full time and then also creating content. I also have my own podcast about living abroad called Packing Up and Piecing Out. So a normal day for me, I get up probably around like 8 or 9, which I feel like is kind of late by Czech standards.
Oh yeah.
Work
It's
from
almost
home.
lunchtime for Czech.
Yeah, I know. Some of them, they start work at like 6:30. I'm like, what? I guess they get out earlier, but like me, I'm so much of a night person. But
yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I was in Starbucks and I was going there like it was 9:30, and I have this favorite barista there, and we talked. And she's like, "Yeah, so do you usually come to work this late in the afternoon?" I was like, "It's 9:30."
The afternoon.
She's like, "Oh yeah, I started at 5." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, I feel like Czech people, they like are such early risers. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever adjust to that. But then, yeah, working from home, so balancing between making videos and writing for my blog, doing my podcast, and then also doing my day job as well. Also try to go to like a class at the gym, and then I do take in-person Czech lessons twice a week. So I have those twice a week that I go to, which is great because working from home, like it forces me to go outside. Some days in the winter, it's the only time I go outside. And then, yeah, like a lot of social plans with my friends. I have a lot of friends who live around like the Vinohrady or Žižkov area. So it's nice to be able to just meet for a coffee or meet for a quick dinner and not have to drive somewhere, like, you know, in the US to meet my friends who live in different towns. Like, it's like, all right, we'll meet up at this restaurant, 35-minute drive to get there. But that's just normal for us. So here, being able to pop to a coffee shop, that's a 10-minute walk and just meet up with a friend. I just love that.
Yeah. And you recently shared that you were sick with a cold, right? And you were sharing how different the experience of being sick in the US is compared to Europe, and it really struck me. So what do you feel about that?
So I was really sick last week, and every time I get sick, I get such bad anxiety because I'm an anxious person in general, but I get so worried to tell my clients that I'm sick, or when I did work a job in the past, I get so scared that they're going to think that I'm lazy, that I'm not fit for the job. And my boyfriend was like, "You're in Europe now. You can be sick. You're allowed to be sick here, and people don't care." And that really made me think like, wow, America has made me so obsessed with productivity and work, and that I put so much of my value into how much I get done. And I know, you know, a lot of people in Europe, they care a lot about that too, but being sick is just part of life, and they don't necessarily feel high levels of anxiety if they have to take a sick day. So yeah, that was something to think about. And I got a lot of comments from both Americans and Czech people sharing their opinions, and Czech people being like, yeah, no, I don't feel any anxiety. I just rest and take the day off, like your body needs to rest. And I'm like, yeah, I hope I can start feeling that way. I'm sure I will, you know, lose some of these Americanisms and become more European, I guess, as I spend more time here. But just the work culture in general is such a huge difference. Like most of my friends in the US have 10 to 12 paid days off. And which, yeah, like to come to, say, to go to Asia, for example, that's why travel is so inaccessible for so many people in America, because you need the full 2 weeks to go on a trip to Asia because it's so far. But then that means you don't have any other days. Say you have a friend's wedding, you need to save days for these like sorts of things. So that's why traveling for Americans, I think people make fun of us because we're so poorly traveled, and, you know, they say, oh, we're ignorant and we just stay in America. But a lot of that is not out of choice. It's because people just don't have the time or the money to be able to travel. So,
Well, I never thought about that. About like you do need full 2 weeks to travel somewhere, because it's also far away. Like it's also far, so you have to take days off.
Yeah, and one of my best friends is getting married in Italy this year, and for me to go there, I'm like, ooh, this is chill, just a 2-hour flight. But you know, my friends coming from the US, it's a much bigger commitment for them to go to Europe, like taking multiple days off of work, just the flight there, and trying to find a direct flight if they can. So it is just such a bigger commitment to travel outside of the US, and a lot of people want to. They want to see the world, but they just can't.
Yeah. I mean, like, I do get it. I feel like for Russians, it's very similar depending where you are. If you're like in European part next to the Moscow, it's one thing, but like you have the whole rest of Russia, right? And it's very hard to travel to the West because it's so far away, and it's also very expensive.
Yeah, same in the US. Like even traveling within America, it's expensive. So a really high percentage of Americans have never even left their home state. And again, some people don't want to, but most people I think would if they had the opportunity. They just don't have the means or the time or just the ability to actually do that. So
would you say that work-life balance in like Czech Republic is better than the US?
Oh, so much better. I mean, what do they get? 20 days, 25 days?
20 is minimum.
20 minimum, and then all the public holidays. Like in America, we don't have any like holidays that you have to be given off work. There's no like legal requirement for a company to give you off work. So most companies, will give off for like Christmas and things like that, but we don't really have the concept of like a bank holiday like Europe has, where like everything is shut essentially.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Americans on holidays still have to go to work. So
you can go to work here as well, but they need to pay you double.
Oh, so you could go to the
you
office.
potentially could.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, not everywhere. Not that all. So all like the shops and everything you can't now, which I personally don't agree on. Like I know it's a controversial opinion, but I was like I've worked.
You want your Albert to kill?
No. That's not what I mean. I mean like I worked in retail before. And it was before this law passed. So now, like, all the shops, like, I think it's above 200 meters square, they have to be closed on public holidays. But before, when I worked in retail, it wasn't like this. So it was open. And we always had people who worked during the holidays because we had nothing else to do. No, we didn't have a family we can go to, like, we didn't have any plans. And we were paid double according to the law. So we never had a problem with like coming in. There were always someone who's like, yeah, like I volunteer, like I'm gonna come, because still you don't do anything there. You relax most of the days because nobody goes shopping on a Christmas day, and you get paid double. So I don't like. This is why I feel like this is the law I don't agree on. But I feel like maybe okay if we're talking about like Tesco, Albert, when you need to have like more employees. Maybe it's not always voluntary, but we always had it like, like whoever wants to come, they just come into work. Nobody really forced us, and we got paid double.
Yeah, well, the double pay is nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you mentioned that you live in Prague, in Vinohrady, right? In Prague too. Yeah, so how do you like it?
Oh, I love it there. I mean, I feel like it kind of gets like a bad reputation sometimes as just being people who just want to be around like expats. I don't consider myself an expat since I'm like moved here as an immigrant to stay here long term, but I feel like Vinohrady, like you do hear English more than you hear Czech for sure. But I think like we wanted to live there first sort of as a transition between coming here and like transitioning into Czech culture. So it's amazing, but in terms of like us staying and like eventually buying somewhere, like we're not going to be able to buy somewhere in Vinohrady because it's so expensive. But I do love it, and I'm so happy with our flat, despite it not having air conditioning, which
does it get hot?
An American thing. Well, this past summer wasn't very hot in Prague, but
the walls in the Vinohrady buildings are also like 2 meters thick.
Yeah, and we're at the very top too. So we'll get window units if we need to, but I knew that if I wanted to live in Vinohrady in an older building, I had to give up air conditioning, and I was okay with that in the end. As an American, we love our air conditioning, but I'm like, I can adjust, and we can get a window unit if we really need to. But yeah, last summer, it wasn't even that hot in Prague, so we didn't need to. So we'll see for this year. But yeah, I love our flat, and since we both work from home, we needed like a good bit of space since we're both taking calls and stuff like that. But yeah, I know we got some questions about finding an apartment, so I can talk a little bit about that. With the temporary residence permit, you need, to show that you have a place to live. It wasn't a big rush for us to find an apartment because since my boyfriend's mom is in Prague, I could have also had her place. Yeah, lived with her, and you guys would know this, but she would have been able to provide some sort of letter that shown that she was allowing me to live at the house. But we still wanted to get our own place as soon as we could. And we looked a lot on that Seznam CZ and looked at some different agencies like Svobodan Williams. That's, I think, the one we ended up going through. And we were actually able to find a place within our budget pretty easily. We viewed a few different places, but that were all really different. One in Vyšehrad, one in Karlín, I think, and one in Vinohrady. And the one in Karlín was way too modern for my taste. I know there's a lot of new buildings there, super new, super modern, which people like for different reasons. But I just fell in love with the one in Vinohrady, and it was furnished with all these mucha paintings, and it was just like really beautiful.
Experience.
Yeah, and the owner's Italian. He's not Czech, but like it was decorated so beautifully, and it was one of the more affordable ones, and the area was just perfect. So we really had a pretty easy experience, but I know that there's many different ways to find an apartment. I see a lot of Facebook groups and things like that. We never had to do that, especially as a couple, since there's two of us and we're looking for a full place rather than a room. But we are planning to buy somewhere eventually. So I think that'll be a different story. Especially, I know getting a mortgage as a foreigner is also can be more complicated in its own right. So we'll go through that when the time comes. But again, we're not in a big rush because we're really happy with our flat at the moment.
So then when you assimilate even more, you might be looking at Stodulky or something.
Yeah. Or we looked in like Podolí, like, because all of like Mark's Czech family and their family friends, they're like, oh, obviously don't live in Vinohrady. Why would you live there? So expensive. The ceilings are so high. Like, you don't want to be there. You want to be in, Stodolky or Podolí or these places that I hadn't even heard of at the time. And I was like, no, I think I'll be in Vinohrady.
Yeah, I get it.
At the beginning, at least.
Yeah. I lived in Stodulky, not the Stodulky area, but we lived like in Chodov and in like far away. And I don't think that's for me. I don't think like I'm really happy in Vinohrady.
Yeah, I like being central. Like, I like just being able to hop so easily on the metro or the tram. And I mean, we'll see as more time goes by. And eventually, if we do have kids here, like, obviously that will be a consideration of where the schools are. But that's very far down the road. I have like 7 or 8 years until that happens.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's nice to just go outside your apartment or building and just see nice buildings and like everything is clean, because when you go outside and see like Opatov, that's a different story.
Yeah, you always see these TikToks where it's like me in like an Eastern European country going on a mental health walk, and it's like
the flat before where I lived, it was in front of the crematorium. So it was like,
I know where that is.
Yeah. So it was like the area was nice, it was like modern and everything, but then you go and you wait for the tram and you just see like all these sad people. It was like also cemetery. Cemetery is nice. Like, I'm okay with dead people. Dead people are okay. But like all these like sad grieving people, it was just and you start every day with like people died and people like sad. So I gave it like 2 years.
Yeah, that's a vibe killer for sure.
And you come to the office, you're like, oh. So now it's like definitely better. Now I go out and it's like Vinohrady and everything. So it's better for me, at least.
Yeah, you seem more positive in work.
Right? Right? I know like it influenced a lot though. Yeah.
So have you been to any weird parts of Prague? Have you done, because what I like sometimes, I used to work different jobs before we moved to Prague like 14 years ago. And so I traveled a lot within Prague, and it brought me to places I would normally have never visited, and that was kind of interesting because Prague, now it's like one big city, but it was built the way that those parts were separate villages.
Oh, yeah.
And they were getting attached to Prague and
like
Holešovice
wasn't, I think that was like a separate, I don't know, I could be wrong.
Yeah, it had definitely a different vibe because it was more industrial. But everything like around the center, even Vinohrady was like a separate city, just like 150 years ago or something.
Oh, when you went to school?
Exactly, yeah. We were helping building where you live. I actually built that.
Wow.
With bare hands.
The vineyards. You planted the vineyards.
So it's like you go to like just a couple blocks away and it's a completely different feel and completely different kind of village.
Yeah. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but I do feel like my boyfriend having Czech family has brought me to some different parts of Prague that I wouldn't have gone to just as a foreigner here. But that's what I love about him having Czech family and me also having Czech friends is that I'm experiencing things that I feel like a lot of people who immigrate here don't get to experience, at least not at first. And I feel like that's really helped me feel so much more at home, like seeing my friends' villages near Zlín and Šumava. And like, when would I have gone there otherwise? Like, you know, maybe to Zlín and Šumava, but not the villages nearby, like getting to actually see what it's like to live more in the Czech countryside and in Moravia. And it's just been such a amazing experience to have Czech friends and family.
Yeah, would you recommend foreigners or expats to go to like villages to see how Czech people live?
I mean, yes, but like I don't know how. I guess like Šumava, that's a national park, so it's touristy. But in terms of the villages, I feel like I don't know how you would figure out which ones to go to without Czech people bringing you there in a way. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys have recommendations, but like I feel like I wouldn't have gone to these places if I hadn't. I mean, I'd never heard of them before. I had no idea they existed, and being able to be brought there by people who grew up there and be able to show how the way of life is there was just so worthwhile. So I guess the recommendation is make Czech friends. Don't just stay in the foreigner bubble. I think a lot of people do that when they move, and I understand the inclination of wanting to say meet other Americans because you feel like they can understand what you're going through. But I didn't even set out to make Czech friends. I set out to make friends that I felt like could be long-term friendships and people who were most likely going to stay in Prague, because a lot of Americans I met were here for a short period of time teaching or on a school program. So it just kind of happened that my friends are mostly Czech and Slovak. And I'm glad for it, though, because it's brought me so many of these more authentic experiences.
Yeah, and you mentioned that your, well, maybe future mother-in-law, that she could give you like a paper for accommodation. So that brings me to questions like, how was the partnership visa or temporary residency permit process for you? Was it manageable?
It was manageable. We actually did it all of ourselves, which I feel like if I did it again, yeah, I would definitely use an agency because, I mean, we just got different answers every time we called when we had questions. A different person from the ministry would speak to us and they would tell us something different. So the biggest mistake that we made is improving our relationship. They told us over the phone twice that we just needed photos, and that was it. And so we get there and they're like, "What? This is all you have?" And I was so let down because I was like so ready to apply. We had all the paperwork, everything translated. They're like, "This is all you have." And thankfully they let Mark write a letter in Czech, like a long letter about our relationship, which was this whole thing because Mark speaks Czech, but he doesn't write Czech as well because he learned it through speaking through his mom. And so he had to call his mom on the phone and they like wrote the letter together. And thankfully they let us submit that. But I wish I had known that other things help, like letters from friends, letters from people who know your relationship. But I just didn't have the answers to these questions. So if we did it again, I definitely would have gone through an agency because we also had no idea what to expect in terms of timeline. I had no idea that the foreign police could visit, which they did. I don't know how. I never read about this online, but they ring the bell and in Czech, they're saying to Mark, like, "It's the foreign police. We're here for Taylor." And then he's like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, could I have posted something online that like made them mad?" And it was just to visit to make sure we were in our apartment. But like my heart was beating. I was like, "Am I going to get deported?" I was so scared. And yeah, thankfully it all went well. And after that, it was like a month or two for the permit to get approved. But yeah, I love that you can be here as a partner because I think that in so many other countries, you have to be a spouse. And we would have done that if we had to. But having the freedom to be able to choose when we want to get married rather than having to. And we will, because then, you know, it'll make it easier for me to get permanent residence quicker and eventually citizenship. So we will do that, but it's more on our own terms and timeline. So I love that the Czech Republic has that partnership visa, the temporary residence of a distant family member of an EU citizen. Oh, it's a mouthful.
I actually love that you know the correct name.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Because yeah, everyone asks like the partner visa, but yeah, it's like that's not what it's called, but yeah. Yeah, it's a mouthful for sure.
Yeah. In case you're interested, the ones that you're watching the podcast, we do have a lot of articles and a lot of videos. One of our podcast episodes, which is called Love, Marriage, Whatever in the Czech Republic, is one of the first ones, is actually devoted into the partnership visa or temporary residency for the family member?
Yeah, there's a big need for it. I get a lot of messages, and now I'm going to be passing them to you guys. But so many people ask me about the visa. So many people who have Czech partners or a European partner with an EU passport too. And obviously, I can talk about my own experience, but I'm not an expert in the temporary residence permit by any means. And you guys are, so that's perfect.
Yeah, there was a question about how do I get a work visa from one of the followers. So, do you want to address how to get a work visa?
I would start with defining what you mean by work visa, because different people mean different things, and work also kind of works differently in the Czech Republic than in some other countries as well. Because in the Czech Republic, and especially from the immigration perspective, there is a big difference between being employed and being self-employed, which is both work, but completely different processes, completely different rules. So I would start with that. Like, if you want to be employed, what type of job, or if you want to be self-employed, what you want to do, and then like take it from there. Because if you want to be employed, you first need to find the employer willing to kind of sponsor you for an employee card or a blue card. If you want to go the self-employed way, you need to approach it in a different way as well. So I would start with defining what exactly you want to do and take it from there.
Yeah, but obviously, like if you do apply for the visa as a third country national, you have to apply outside the Czech Republic at the embassies. But in for example, Taylor's case, you first arrived here and then you applied from here, right? From Prague.
Yeah, which is amazing, but also confusing in its own way, because I had to get the private health insurance because I didn't have a trade license yet, because I didn't have the visa yet. So I had to get the private insurance, and now I have been able to switch to the public. But then I also had trouble opening a bank account because I didn't have the visa yet, but I was living here and I was allowed to be living here because I had a bridging visa. So yeah, it was good, but it is complicated in its own way. But I'm at least glad I was able to like start my life here while it was processing, because my visa took 9 months from submission to approval. So I'm just glad I was able to live here during that time. And with the bridging visa, I could also leave the country and come back. And I'm just thankful for that, because I know that in a lot of countries, that's not the case. And you have to apply from outside the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, even for the Czech Republic, like this is one of the few exceptions when you can do it here. And that's actually one of the greatest advantages of the partnership visa, the temporary residency, that you apply here. And if you give them everything they need, you can get the bridging visa and you can stay here, you can travel, you can work, you can do whatever you want. So makes it way easier. You don't need to worry about your 90 days or anything. So,
yeah, you can like start your life and live with your partner and then just wait for it to officially get approved and then do some more paperwork. But
yeah, we usually say that any visa, including the partnership visa, you can do yourself. But like, why would you? Like you can definitely do it yourself. Like I hate how like different, also like relocation or visa agents, they just like hate on immigration system right now, and they hate on the Ministry of Interior offices and stuff, saying how awful they are. They actually are not. They're not awful. They are improving so much. Like they are starting to speak English. They have these information centers in English inside at the ministry. They do have people who speak English. They make it so much more approachable and so much easier to actually go through the process alone. But there are a lot of things that you just don't know. They're just like written between the lines, or you can only know when you're working in it. That you will not get rejected because of it. Like you will not die. But if you had known about it, it probably would make it a little smoother and a little faster.
I would have done it for sure, looking back, because things I feel like are also always changing. Like when I did it, I needed to get the physical stamp. And now you can just pay by credit card. So like things are always changing. Yeah. So I guess next time I'll know that. But yeah, if I went back, I definitely would have gotten some help.
Yeah. And there's like tricks about the insurance that we just talked about just before filming this podcast, the whole thing about the insurance, that you have to have insurance before you apply or after you apply. You have to be registered in the system. There's like these steps. They will not reject your visa just because of that. But you can just get ahead of it, and just like get this sorted out before that, so you're just not stressed. Yeah, but it's really impressive that you did it yourself. Yeah, I'm really.
I mean, Mark's mom was a big help with being native Czech speaker. Like, Mark tried to help, but with like government related things, it was a little. We needed to rely on his mom a lot. So she was a huge help in the process, but it was still a headache at a lot of points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also curious to know about your content creation
Mhm.
that you do, because when we started to talk, I told my coworker Christy, I was like, you know what, like we're talking about this, like a few content creators, like for example Taylor. She's like, Taylor, and like you have Taylor Takes Prague.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, Taylor Takes Prague. I'm like, yes. She's like, yeah, I follow her. Like, she's so great. I was like,
Aw.
yes. Yeah, she was obsessed. She was so happy. So I'm wondering, do you have more like Czech followers, or you would say you have more like American followers on your Instagram?
I would say I have a good mix of Czech and foreigners here, not just Americans. It seems like a lot of Americans do find me because I always hashtag American in Prague. So I feel like I end up coming on Americans' feed who lives here. But yeah, I also have a lot of Czech followers, which is great because I also feel like they're responding to my stories and teaching me like more and more stuff about
Czechs
like,
have opinions and
yeah,
love sharing them.
yeah. Mostly nice things though. Obviously, I do get a fair share of hate comments, but the nice ones definitely outweigh the hate comments.
Do you have like any like the funniest comment you remember that you received on any of your videos?
Well, maybe not funny, but I would say when I had a video of my mom and stepdad trying kofola, and my mom didn't like it, and so we got a lot of death threats on that video. Yeah. I love kofola, but to an American palate, it's quite different than anything we have, and it's not. I think they were expecting it to be like Coke or Pepsi, since it's like a cola, but it's not at all. It's so different. So yeah, those are probably the most outrageous, I guess.
Yeah, we had an episode with Armando before. You can also watch it on YouTube and Instagram, and like we did like small reels of that, and it was one about the Czech food. We had to delete comments.
Yeah,
like we had to delete some of the comments because they were very bad. Like that was very unfortunate. Yeah. So again, Czech people are very serious. I feel like Europeans in general are very serious about their food. So French are, Italians are, and Czechs. Okay, the three nations.
Well, good thing I love Czech food. So.
Oh, you do? What is your favorite Czech food?
Probably svíčková. Yeah, probably svíčková. But I really love koláda also. Is that how you say it? Koláda?
Yeah, it's just weird to hear from you.
That's like my favorite soup. But yeah, I also, just because Mark's mom like would always be making Czech food, and so I got like a good introduction to it there. But yeah, I love Czech food. There's so many things I still need to try though, like that jelly. It's like just gelatinous pork fat with like things in it. I haven't tried that, so I can't say if I love that or not. But
it has a lot of collagen.
Okay, so good for your skin.
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm open to try like anything. And I know there's like the pork blood soup that they have on Masopust. I was sick, so I didn't celebrate it all, but I'll try anything.
But you do make a lot of content around restaurants as well, right, in Prague? Okay, so what is your content about? Tell me.
Yeah. So my content is mostly about just what it's like living here as an American or as a foreigner in general. I would say I've always been really drawn to storytelling, like from a young age. So a little bit of background, but my dad passed away from a genetic disease when I was young, and just for as long as I can remember, I felt really like inclined to write about our family story. And when I was 10, I like published a story in a magazine, and I just feel like I always was drawn to sharing things that I go through to make other people feel less alone. So throughout my life, I feel like I've done that in so many different ways. And so I think just creating content was just such a natural fit for me. I also come from a place in America where not a lot of people move abroad. I know like one other person that doesn't live in the US that has moved to Paris. And so a lot of it too was just to keep my friends and family like updated on what was going on and what it's actually like to live outside of America, because we don't get exposed to that other perspective very often. But then I also realized that me sharing my day-to-day life as an American here was also interesting for Czech people too, because they were interested to see like what it's like from my perspective. And it's also made them, I think, realize maybe some things they've taken for granted because they've grown up here, that they realize like, wow, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. And obviously you're always going to view the place you grew up differently than someone who has immigrated here. But yeah, like Mark's uncle, he's so funny, but he's like, you need to write a book, because I'll like point something out, like say about the Czech saunas, and he's like, what? I never thought anything twice about that, because it's so normal to him. And he's like, it's so interesting, like the observations you make about culture here, because like, yeah, I guess, he hasn't interacted with many Americans who live here. So the things I point out that are interesting, he's like, I never thought about it that way. Maybe Taylor Takes Prague book coming one day. But yeah, I also just think it's fun. I'm such an open person, and I just like to share my day-to-day life, and I'm so like not focused on aesthetics or anything like that. I just really post my thoughts and what I get up to, restaurant recommendations, but also just like cultural comparisons, and also just take feedback. Like I get messages, can you post about this? And then I'll make a video about this. So it's just really a mix, but I think it's just something I will continue because I love it. Like it gives me a lot of energy just to see the comments that I get and to meet so many people through Instagram, Czech people and other foreigners, or Czechs living in America. That's another population I found through Instagram, like, because we sort of switched places, and they went to America for a better life, and I came to the Czech Republic for a better life. So it's like, it's interesting how it works both ways.
Yeah. So is there something that people like always ask you? You said that people sometimes send you requests, right? Like what to do next, what to cover next. There's something like you get asked all the time.
Yeah. Let me think about this. Okay, yes. I would say the question I get asked the most is if you need to speak Czech to live in Prague. I get asked this all the time, and I don't think there's a yes or no. I'm learning Czech, but that's also because I want to stay here long term. I eventually want to have kids here who will be Czech and speak Czech. My boyfriend's family speaks Czech. But I also just feel like there's a level of respect to come to a country and to learn their language. Like this is the language of the country. Yes, a lot of people in Prague speak English, and I think you can get by just speaking English, but to feel really integrated here, I do feel like you need to learn Czech. Not need to. You don't need to, but I feel like you should want to, because you'll feel more connected and you'll feel your day-to-day life will just become easier. Like I don't really run into any big challenges at the moment, but I did get accused of stealing in Lidl, and there was a language barrier there. So just little things like that where I'm like, I wish I could
explain myself.
Yeah, explain myself. It's because I had my jacket in the cart, and I didn't realize she was yelling at me in Czech, and I was saying, nemluvím česky, and it just went on, and then eventually she like reference to my jacket, and yeah.
So but she thought like you had something underneath.
Yes, that's what she thought. Okay. Which like but it just kind of escalated to like the point where it's like I wish I could have just responded and understood that she said pick up your jacket. I'll get there. I've been studying for like 14 months probably now, but I did not know the pick up your jacket.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
But these things happen just once in a while, and I don't run into the trouble that often, but I always encourage people to learn Czech. I think even if it's something you do on your own terms and slowly, it's so also fulfilling, because in America, we don't really learn other languages unless you have a reason to. You study Spanish a little bit in school, but never to a serious level. So it's been fun and really, really, really hard. Obviously, Czech's one of the hardest languages for English speakers to learn on some global rankings. So that's fun, but...
Do you have any favorite Czech word?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I got asked this once before, and I said just kočka, but that's too boring. So I'm going to say I like something with the ž, maybe like příležitost or something.
Okay.
Is that like, what is that, surprise? Wait, what is it?
Opportunity.
Opportunity, yeah.
Příležitost.
Because I do get complimented on my sometimes when I make videos. It doesn't always hit, but sometimes it hits.
It's the most complicated to say.
It's so hard.
Yeah, to finish it off, I have like a few very short questions, just like to like fire away. So, favorite Prague neighborhood?
Vinohrady.
Best Czech food?
Svičková.
Thing you'd bring from the US?
So many things. I'm going to say blue Gatorade. They have blue Gatorade here, but it's different. they have dark blue Gatorade here. In America, we have ice blue Gatorade, and it's totally different, and it's so good, and I need it so bad. Just look it up. That's all I can say.
It's a kind of energy drink or like
okay.
electrolytes drink. Or
Oh yeah,
like
Gatorade. They do have it here, but
Yeah.
it's totally different because in the US it has chemicals that are like banned in the EU. So
Okay, so it makes it better.
yeah.
That's the flavor.
Yeah, it does. It does.
What is something you wish you knew before coming here?
I wish I knew that Czech people are different to the stereotypes that you see online, and that they're really nice and friendly, and especially when you try to speak Czech, I feel like they're usually really encouraging.
It's now your time to spread the wisdom.
Do you have one word for Prague?
Charming.
Oh. And finally, if a friend from the US asked you, should I move to Prague? What would you say?
1,000% yes.
Well, if you are considering moving to Prague and you are of any nation or American specifically, I hope this episode was helpful to you. And thank you so much, Taylor, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was so
Thank
much
you very
fun.
much.
It was fun. It was fun. And actually, you gave me like a lot of insights I truly didn't think of, about like the traveling and the work days and everything. So, and the safety as well. It's always something for us. Every time I have a guest, every time it makes me like realize more and more things. And I hope you too, as a Czech person.
No, I already, as a Czech man specifically, I already have all the answers. So
Make sure to follow Taylor for her amazing content. I really like your content, what you share on TikTok and Instagram. So make sure to follow her. We will insert all the links below. And if you have any comments to this video or have any questions, you can always leave the comments here, or if you're watching on Instagram or TikTok, also there. So thank you so much, Taylor. It was very fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.